Well, here we are, once again at the throngs of media chaotic narrative. Whether it be mainstream media or its henchman appendage, social media, the trauma continues. Welcome to the maelstrom, the collective confusion of 2020 that will forever go down in history books as the year that truly opened the 21st century and ended the era of the third industrial revolution, thereby beginning the next era, the era of the 21st century technocracy, the fourth industrial revolution. Firstly, by fomenting a global reset, which will entail a new global economy, a new culture, new infrastructure, and new policies. In order for this to take place, especially in a place like America, individualism must be deconstructed to produce a hive mind and collectivist perspective fit for the global socialistic system of inclusivity and sustainability. This can be done in several ways, mainly by creating a situation that will collapse the current economy. One way to do this is to get the public to support the idea of dismantling capitalism, just in time for them to usher in their global socialistic state of techno-fascism.
We want an end to the profit at all costs mentality, because if we don't build an economic future with people at the centre in a sustainable frame where we are respectful of our planetary boundaries and the need to change our energy and technology systems to have a living planet for human beings, the world could fund it right now, and yet 70% of the world's people have no social protection. That's respectful of public services and not simply trying to make profit of them.
I believe it is very important for countries to recognize that, there are some essential services that need to be provided in terms of healthcare, in terms of education, in terms of good governance, in terms of social safety, that cannot be compromised on. This is a virus that doesn't respect borders. It crosses borders, and as long as it is in full strength in any part of the world, it's affecting everybody else. So this requires global cooperation to deal with it. Countries, they have to find ways of raising revenues, and progressive taxation could be one form of it. We talked about solidarity tax that may be needed in some countries. nature strikes in ways that we cannot imagine, and we've seen one. And climate change is, could be even worse.
Set up a new world order after World War II. We're now in a different world than we were then. What can we be doing differently? And the World Economic Forum, I think, has a big responsibility in that as well, to be pushing the reset button and looking at how to create well-being for people and for the earth. I think the key is to put the health of people and the planet first. And that's what's happening on COVID-19. And what we're learning from this crisis and pandemic is it is possible to switch it.
A new world order.
For 2020, what other important conversations do you think need to be had?
We are living in a world which becomes more and more disintegrated. How to keep such a multipolar, multi-conceptual world together, I think will be at the forefront. Some people would say multilateralism has to be again cultivated in Davos. But I see also, I would call it that we have urgency in emergency related to the environmental issues, climate change, but also biodiversity and so on. We face an emergency situation. And we have not yet really the sense of urgency to address those issues. We see it now with the fires in Australia. And of course, it's relatively difficult to get such a sense of urgency if the stock markets are doing so well as we see now.
So since stock markets are doing so well, meaning since the economy is perceived as stable, and this perceived stability is keeping society complacent, how could one disrupt this complacency? How could one increase the urgency of emergency, as Schwab so eloquently put it? Well, but of course, create a crisis that cannot be ignored, and be sure that it destabilizes that comfy economy. That'll shake society right out of their social media stupor. To avoid blame or discovery, as well as supply the perfect opportunity to reset society, the establishment would be most safe in constructing some type of crisis of which to bring order. Let's not forget the importance of crisis either. They are not simply opportunities for change, but they also are exempt from constitutional intervention, and sovereignty is a defunct concept, placed on a backlog or waiting list. Therefore, an international change that would not coincide with the interests of its people nor its constitution requires more clandestine methods to be realized. We are now experiencing this realization in the form of crisis, combined disasters. How about a crisis provided in the form of a phantom menace, an invisible threat? So invisible, one would not find a need to prove it exists. This would provide the opportunity to kill several birds with one stone. Essentially, weaken social morale to form a docile population ripe for detailed instruction. Destroy a long-standing system of institutions and industries that pose obstacles to the new order of things, whilst comprising the associated economy in such a way that creates plausible deniability and smooths over the imminent collapse that was going to happen anyway. So we can clearly see that the crisis has been displayed to society through the fear and mongering of viral infection, and the moral appeals to systemic racism and racial oppression. But what have both of these orchestrated psychological operations provided in response? Well, we have already discovered the economic compromise that a feigned pandemic can produce. But we also can discover the controlled demolition of infrastructure, institutional and industrial, the toppling of complete facets of society that riots and inexorable protest have contributed. Nothing makes a bigger and heavier hammer than a plethora of unparented, lost, and angry, spoiled first world children of the digital age. And once you can adjust their visions such that all that they can make out with their two eyes are different examples of nails, well, you will find yourself with a worthy weapon, more than a mere tool from the shed. And precisely here, like slaves being used to rebuild a new temple of worship, media reaction revolutions are being used to deconstruct the old world and usher in the new. Yes, precisely here, we have witnessed the weaponization of the youth, the ill and barbaric, the pissed off and tired, the pathologically progressive, and the malignant utopian. Just like climate change is not about the environment, and CV19 is not about keeping you safe, Black Lives Matter as a movement has nothing to do with Black lives, nor the rehabilitation of Black peoples. It has all to do with using the plight of the Black population as a ploy, or as actual matter, to be utilized to usher in a new global order, the Great Reset. This isn't about Black lives. This is a matter of mere matter, the movement of matter, feet in the streets, and destruction of objects. A war game in real time. You think this is about police. This is not about reforming police to better fit you or your community. Remember we mentioned the need for technocratic, institutional, and industrial change? Well, law enforcement is on that priority list. It is in need of drastic change, technological change, not socio-political. That's just the ruse to get you to wave those silly defund the police signs all day. Law enforcement needs to change for the new digital grid system, not for your civil rights needs. And it needs an excuse to be removed for the overhaul. And police brutality is the red herring. George Floyd and every other murder we are being inundated with weekly are the triggers.
Yeah, here, you want to talk? Hey, no peace. Hey, listen, man. Hey, the police is out here right now amongst us. You see, when we all come together, blacks, whites, Mexicans, Native Americans, Chinese, everybody, we come together, this is what happened. It's about time. This shit we gonna be able to tell our grandkids, like, yo, we burnt this shit down. They gotta feel us. All that protesting, marching, Martin Luther King bullshit, that shit is dead. Now we gotta feel us now. They gotta feel us now, period. Look at all this, look at this. Once in a lifetime shit, man, we burnt down a police station. We ran the police off. The police was up here, we ran them off. It's about time, man. Everybody stand up, man, we here, man, Minneapolis 2020. This shit is in history. We gonna make history books with this shit, man. Period. And don't fight each other. This is us versus them. Hands down. Period.
Blacks and whites alike have been beaten and murdered for years due to crooked aspects of law enforcement. Why do you think they are all of a sudden considering change now? Because you burnt down a few buildings? Because you screamed loud enough this time? Those who know nothing of history are doomed to repeat it. And this generation is arguably far more anachronistic than any other. They have all the technology in the world but would bust a blood vessel in attempts to tell you something true about it. Since inbuilt fact-checking algorithms have replaced authentic and genuine inquiry facilitated by actually reading personally researched sources, this generation has fallen behind mentally. They seek quick answers and cliff note understanding instead of conceptual depth. They seek pleasure instead of wisdom. We could also argue this is because their forefathers have failed them, which is true in part, but I maintain every generation is accountable for their acts, whether their conditions be favorable or desolate. purpose is bigger than blame. Actively seek your destination, lest you be taken for a ride. And when you end up in parts unknown, unwarranted, do not ask how you got there, and do not complain about the methods by which you arrived. Racism as a state-funded proxy revolution has accomplished its initial ends. Society is mobile, furious, and rendered to the dregs of emotional states. Completely irrational and histrionic, practically exposing its belly. Society has been traumatically beaten into submission. The operation is working flawlessly. It has gone global and just as planned. Yet the world misconstrues this technocratic revolution with actual black liberation. We fail when we fall under the impression that the state and its plans has any genuine concern with the betterment of black people, or any people for that matter. It's naive and foolish to believe so. Just as foolish as all of those who rush to the streets seeking change by the hands of a state that sees you as a gnat in the eye of global progress. What's global progress? Well, it surely is not about equality or human progress, nor liberation for black peoples of African descent. It's about technologic progress at the expense of human existence. But these people in the streets think they are fighting and succeeding in a revolution. Particularly, this BLM movement is being used to remove the individualist nation-state consciousness of America. While it succeeds in conflating capitalism, intellectualism, Christianity, and nationalism with white supremacy, racism becomes the new weapon of choice for coercing a total global reset. Real historical racial issues that need real attention are co-opted and become casualties of psychological war. So let's return to law enforcement and take a look at what defunding the police have to do with all of this. And again, it has nothing to do with black people and the deserved social redemption of generations past to present, but all to do with creating a crisis on the backs of black people that will provide the compromise needed to remove the police force altogether and implement the global law enforcement digital apparatus. This is why you will continue to see strategically reported examples of police brutality and misconduct day by day, until enough fervor has been created to produce the reaction anticipated by those behind the strings. It is not that these problems have not always existed, but they are being magnified at this specific moment for specific reactions in order to supply specific solutions. Problem, reaction, solution.
Okay, fire it up.
Destination or task?
Helipad. Yep. Hey, 22. Just watch yourself this time, man.
Affirmative.
One that represents the end of crime. The end of corruption. Go! Up against the wall!
On the ground, all targets neutralized.
And the start of the rebirth of our city. Welcome to the world's first robotic police force.
Johannesburg, South Africa became the focus of the world in 2016 with the deployment of the planet's first all-robotic police units. And Tetraval stock skyrocketed.
Certain parts are brought in from China, but all of the robots are assembled right here in South Africa.
The biggest fear the population expressed was vulnerability to hacking. Tetraval assures this is not something to worry about with their bulletproof guard key system. system which allows them and only them to update software on the robots. Before the success of the ubiquitous human-sized police robots, there was a bigger bad boy on the block, the Moose. Vincent Moore is a weapons designer and a former soldier. He has a fundamental spiritual issue with artificial intelligence.
I have a robot that is indestructible, that is operated by a thinking, adaptable, humane, moral human being.
The hyper-advanced neural transmitter converts the human operator's thoughts into the robot's actions, a departure from the artificial intelligence that governs the Scouts. Now, with interest coming from the US, China, and North Korea, the Scouts' creator, Dion Wilson, sees a rich future.
What really interests me is high-level AI, true intelligence, a machine that can think and feel.
We've heard about this. The same-day bot is a new device from FedEx that is already roaming the streets of New York. But if you get in trouble or if family arguments get a little too rowdy at the Thanksgiving table, there's a robot you do not want to see. Check out this video from a TechCrunch conference. Here's a Boston Dynamics robot tested with the Massachusetts State Police. Now, the company's CEO says the robot can open doors and it will be controlled by an officer in a safe location. The idea is it can be used for dangerous situations, such as a hostage negotiation, but I have to wonder, does it stop there? So as a citizen, I just have to wonder, what are your rights if a law enforcement robot and not a human cop knocks on your door just like the video we just saw?
Robots. Artificial intelligence, that's the story. And by the way, you notice how these things are made to look like dogs? You know they don't have to. These can be battering rams. These could actually be far better equipped to do a better job if they had multiple arms. But the reason why they're doing this is to habituate you and condition you through this wonderful world called the uncanny valley to let you know that this is just a little dog, Scotty. This is cool. This isn't anything to be afraid of. Sophia, you know, the robot is going to look nice with a face and a smile and batting eyes. This is deliberate. So to your original question, this is merely an extension of the police. But Scotty, what if they're allowed to patrol, to pull people on their own, to learn the behaviors of certain people? Could they be profiling? Would certain ethnicities be more prone to being stopped? Or if you realize we've made a mistake, Scotty, can you bring them back? Artificial intelligence is basically programs itself. Robots are programmed by people, but AI is programmed by AI. It may not be able to be drawn back. The first thing they're going to do is replicate themselves. See, this is what nobody wants to talk about. People like Ben Goertzel and Ray Kurzweil, who make it sound so cool and neat, never talk about this runaway train called AI.
Guess who it is?
It's him. Flirting aside, the head of artificial intelligence for Dubai Police sees the future with AI and robotics very much at its heart.
Behind it is the artificial intelligence, so it can see you, it has a facial recognition, so it can identify the person in front of him and send all the live feeding to the command and control system. We do have a project, what we call it Dubai Eye, where we have integrated all the CCTV cameras across the city. And on top of that, you're going to build a smart system where it has a facial recognition. It's so difficult to monitor more than 10,000 cameras in the city. So we have an intelligence system where we can analyze a live feeding from those cameras and can predict also, and it can identify all kinds of activities, especially the wanted people.
Although this unmanned facility currently still needs a human on conference call when it comes to reporting a crime. We've recently seen Chicago PD's crime-predicting algorithms, and now Dubai's police are turning their focus to preventing crimes before they even happen.
This application analyzes past crime and try to predict where and when the next crime in that zone could happen in the future.
Another one of the smart services offered to citizens in Dubai is the ability to register if you have a history of cardiovascular problems. You can see on the map there, represented by hearts. Now this means that when an ambulance is called, it will instantly know that it could be attending a heart attack victim. And they say that this has allowed them to reduce the number of fatalities by more than 50%. That's an impressive statistic, but is this widespread surveillance reminding anyone else of a certain sci-fi film? People are going to equate this to Minority Report. What kind of protocols do you have in place to make sure that the data is used in ethical ways in future?
We don't predict who will commit the crime. We predict where it could happen and when it could happen, so we can prevent it and reduce the rate for the crimes.
With 1 in 3 crimes being successfully predicted this time last year, the benefits of using artificial intelligence are, well, predictable. What's more surprising is that the drone team here in Dubai would like to see it taken even further. They believe they can use drones to spot a potential criminal by analysing a person's vital signs.
The drone operator at the command and control can select a target and the camera will automatically lock on that target. Using some different sensors, we can identify persons' blood pressure, temperature. The weather itself can all play a role in the person committing a crime. You can predict if the person is willing to commit a crime or a terrorist attack or something.
Like so many of Dubai's big plans, all this stuff seems to have one foot in ambitious reality and the other in well-intentioned fantasy. It's a place worth keeping an eye on, though, and you can be very sure they'll be keeping an eye on us.
Robots will soon replace human police, with the first real-life RoboCop to be launched this summer. The first robot officer will go on patrol in Dubai by May this year, officials have confirmed. Members of the public will be able to report crimes to the robot using a touch screen on its chest. The robot can salute and shake hands. It will be multilingual, with members of the public able to pay traffic fines through the machine and submit paperwork. There are plans for the machines to make up 25% of the force by 2030. Brigadier Abdullah bin Sultan, director of the Future Shaping Center of Dubai Police, said, "We are looking to have more robots in the future to handle policing. By 2030, we are keen to make robots around 25% of the total police force. We plan for a security system for the future of the city to tackle future crimes. By 2025, Dubai will be one of the best 5 cities in the world on security level." Brigadier Khaled Nasser Al-Razuki, General Director of the Smart Services Department at Dubai Police, told Gulf News, "We are looking to make everything smart in Dubai Police. By 2030, we will have the first smart police station, which won't require human employees. We are aiming to implement many smart police mechanisms, including the smart police station and robots, and adopt artificial intelligence." Dubai Police first unveiled the RoboCop prototype at the Gulf Information Technology Exhibition last year. One of the robots featured cameras able to detect humans and objects, with anything suspicious reported to real-life officers. It was also fitted with a smoke detector to report fires and returned automatically to its charging station with a battery life of 8 hours.
If you want the brutal truth, no lives matter. You are all but simple objects, not people. You will be allowed little outside of technological trinkets to keep you busy. Power, equality, or humane consideration is out of the question. It is but a figment of your imagination. This power to the people, equality, and all the utopian nonsense Rousseau, Marx, More, Wilde, and the rest have sung into your delicate ears. In this new world, you, black, white, yellow, brown, are but a specialized tool in the form of a human being. A shiny hammer to assist in building this brave new world. A new world where black people will not see rehabilitation nor liberation, but deeper enslavement, along with the rest of the multitude. The technocracy is not about race or equality. It is about faith in its methods. It is about servitude and obedience. You are merely a means to an end to which you do not know, nor its authors. And your pride, pain, and hopes are being used as ammunition against you and against society as a whole. You play but a role, a 15-second line of fame. As you post to Instagram your simulated making of history, your live-action role-play revolution, you slowly slip into a deeper state of sleep. The virtual abyss becomes your sunken place. No longer a safe space. If you want solutions, yet you are still attempting to locate them in this life, you will remain in search for things of which you will never find. See, the fallen nature of mankind is beyond the surface matters of race. All man, black and white, will hold you in contempt. Your every king will fail you. In this world, your tears will forever flow. And on this earth, your cries will never be answered. Precisely because the answers are simply not found here. And until you come to this truth, you will remain in bondage. Without the experience of bondage, how can one know what it is to seek freedom? If earth were blissfully free, equal, and no pain existed, man could not know the extent of his gifts, nor would he wish to seek anything outside of himself. Choose whom you will serve this day.